Hello, cats and kittens, felines and felidae, humans and variant humans, and every race, class, and subclass. Thank you once again for tuning in to another episode of Brainy the RPG Cat. Tonight, well, we're going to be discussing tabletop lore. There's just so much material that we're going to have to go over. So, this past week, the second module of the new D&D 1 system just came out. So, we're going to be reviewing that. I also have a steampunk weapons and armor homebrew that was written by a Twitch. Was written by a Twitter individual by the name of Kawaii Tornado, and I'll be talking to you about why that's significant as soon as we get started with that. And finally, we're going to read the final section of Lives of xaryxis, which is the uh, Spelljammer version of the Spelljammer Adventure module that comes with the 5e Spelljammer 3-pack. So we're going to be completing that. So when we last left off, we were talking about getting put into an arena by a sinister mercane who just wanted to fight us for some reason. So we're going to be going from that onto chapter 9 and onward. So thank you everybody for tuning in once again. This stream is brought to you by GreatMedia.games for inexpensive TCG single cards. Visit GreatMedia.games and use the code TENFINITY at checkout for 10% off your online purchase. Alrighty, so let's go ahead, let's head over to the screen and let's review all of this awesome new material for Dungeons and Dragons. This is Tabletop Lore. Alright, so here's the D&D 1 module. So this document is the second in a series of Unearthed Arcana articles that present material designed for the next version of the Player's Handbook. This material uses the rules in the 2014 Player's Handbook, except where it's noted. Providing feedback on this document is one way you can help shape the next generation of Dungeons & Dragons. So, we're going slightly into just the 5e version of the Player's Handbook here, but it's going to be it's going to be relatable based on what they have developed and what they hope to produce for the new version. So, I'm not going to root around for this and just look around for what's new. I'm just going to review it, and we'll see how, particularly what's new about it and just what's worth commenting on. That's going to help me fill out the survey that I'm going to be required to do since I'm looking through D&D 1 material. Wow, 5e is that old already? It sure is. I certainly remember, 3 or 4 years ago when I was barely in the process of beating up my Player's Handbook, but my Player's Handbook is pretty terrible looking now. The rest of my books are completely pristine, so make of that what you will. Alright, so expert classes. 3 classes appear in this document, each one a member of the expert group: the Bard, the Ranger, and the Rogue. Each class appears with one subclass. More subclasses will appear in Unearthed Arcana in the months ahead. Feats. Feats follow class descriptions, particularly feats available to the classes in the document. So the last time that we reviewed this, as you recall, feats were going to be a big feature of the upcoming Player's Handbook. So one of the new things that we're going to be talking about is the interjection of feats into these 3 classes. 3 spell lists, the Arcane, Divine, and Primal lists are featured here. The Ranger uses the Primal list, the Bard potentially uses all 3 thanks to magical secrets. And a rules glossary. Any term in the body text that is underlined appears at the glossary at the end. This is our way of ascertaining what the terminology for some of the new material in this is. This is playtest material. The material here is experimental and in draft form and isn't officially part of the game. So yeah, we had a similar disclaimer the last time that we read this. We invite you to try out this material and play. When you do so, you are welcome to combine this article with Character Origins from August 2022, which was the last one that we read. Um, if you do combine this article with the previous one, use only the rules glossary found here. In the one D&D Unearthed Arcana series, the rules glossary of each article supersedes the glossary of any previous article. To play with this material, you may either incorporate it into your campaign or run one or more special playtest sessions. For such a session, you may create an adventure of your own, or use a short adventure from a source like Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel or Candlekeep Mysteries. Okay, power level. The character options you read here might be more or less powerful than options in the 2014 Player's Handbook. If a design survives playtesting, we adjust its power to the desirable level before publication in a book. And the best way to give us feedback on this material is to fill out the survey that we'll release in D&D Beyond. So what's ahead in the 1D&D playtest? We have many things in store for you to read and try out in the months ahead. Here are some of the highlights. Revised versions of every class from the 2014 Player's Handbook. 48 subclasses, including the subclasses in this article, new and revised spells, new and revised feats, new weapon options for certain classes, a new system for creating a home base for your characters, pardon me, revised encounter building rules, and new and revised monsters. As the playtest progresses, you will also see new versions of some things that you provided feedback on earlier in the past. So that means that, some of this material is going to loop just out of the fact that, they're going to revise it and then they're going to show it us again so that we can play test it and we can fill out another survey. But a bit more significantly is that, there is a lot of discussion around this new Player's Handbook that they are attempting to bring in some of the features of 4th edition, and then they're just really trying to include that into some of the concepts that they've already had in 5th edition. And one of those was feats, of course, but another one, what's significant about here is that, in addition to classes, we're going to be reintroducing subclasses. We're going to be reintroducing classes that are supplemental to classes that already exist. And those exist in 5e and, books like Xanathar's Guide to Everything, but it's a little bit more significant, just in the sense that we are going to be introducing them just over time in new just new versions of them and new versions of them that are supplemental to the classes that already exist. That's a little bit hard to follow, but that's effectively the difference between this and subclasses as they exist. So, parts of class. Each class contains the rules elements described below. Characters who have levels in the class are exceptional. Most of the inhabitants of the multiverse aren't members of a class. I mean, we're trying to gloss this up a little bit. We're trying to say that these are expert classes. These are, this is the ranger class and this is the bard class. So, this is what we refer to as expert classes, is that classes of individuals who are just specialties of a certain type of adventuring, as opposed to magic using classes and then just straight up fighter classes. So, each class is a member of a class group, a set of classes that have certain features and themes in common. I think this is going to start explaining what I just explained to you. Expert classes are bards, rangers, and rogues, polymaths who have the expertise feature and elements of other classes. Mages, the sorcerer, the warlock, and the wizard, adepts of arcane magic focusing on utility and destruction. Priest, cleric, druid, and paladin, stewards of divine or primal magic, focusing on healing, utility, and defense. And warriors like the barbarian, fighter, and monk, who are masters of combat who can deal and endure many wounds. The artificer is also considered to be an expert. The class appears in Tasha's Cauldron and Everything, Eberron Rising from the Last War, but not the Player's Handbook. Hello, Sonarif. Thank you very much for tuning in. How are you doing tonight? So, a class group has no rules in itself, but prerequisites and other rules can refer to these groups. For example, only members of the mage group can be able to attune to a particular magic item or a feat. Might be available only to members of the warrior group. When creating a party of adventurers, one way to form a well-rounded group is to include at least one member of each class group. That and said, mix and match classes to your heart's content. Yeah, it's the weekend, and I'm happy for the weekend because this is my first weekend by myself for a while, so I'm gonna try to find um, some windows of time in order to continue to write my RPGs, and we're already scheduled to draw some more of Brainy the comic this Sunday. There's also one more announcement, and it's an announcement that I would like to make once I'm completed with tonight's stream. So everybody who's currently watching, stay tuned for the end of the stream because I do have something very important to talk about regarding the channel. So, class features. Each class grants special features at certain levels. Those features are listed in the class's table and detailed in the class's description. And then subclasses, class's description followed by a section dedicated to subclasses. A subclass represents an area or specialization for a member of the class. Here are 3 highlights in this article's classes. All 3 classes have new features, as well as revised version of the old features. When a class offers a decision, a suggested choice is usually presented, usually at lower levels. This makes it easier to create characters quickly. And each class's 20th level feature has moved to 18th level, opening up to 20 for epic boons. Okay, so this is the revision of Bard. Is an expert class group. Its primary ability is Charisma. And so Bard is effectively the charisma charisma leading class in the entire game. Invoking magic through music, dance, and verse. Bards are experts at inspiring others, soothing hearts, disheartening foes, and creating illusions. I actually, that says soothing hurts. I guess I'm just really too familiar about the bard's ability to soothe hearts because that's just what I'm experienced at. Bards believe that the creators of the multiverse spoke and signed it into existence, and the remnants of those words of creation still resound and glimmer on every plane of existence. The magic of bards is an attempt to harness those words, which transcend any language, and direct them to create new wonders. Almost anything can inspire a new song or tale, so bards are fascinated by almost everything. They have a wide ranging knowledge of many subjects and develop an aptitude to almost anything well. Bards become masters of many things, including musical performance, the workings of magic, and the formation of jests. Not every singer or poet or tavern or jester is a royal card is a bard. Harnessing the words of creation requires hard work and some measure of natural talent that most troubadours and jongleurs lack. It can be sometimes hard to spot the difference between these performers and bards, though. A bard's life is spent wandering across the land, gathering more lore, telling stories, and living on the gratitude of audiences, much like any other entertainer. They are also very well versed in trying to seduce everything that walks on 2 and potentially 4 legs. But bards' depth of knowledge, a level of musical skill, and mastery of magic sets them apart. Alright, so this is the bard chart. So let's see if there's anything significantly different when it comes to this. At first level, bardic inspiration, spellcasting, expertise, songs of restoration. The bard subclass. So this is an interesting section right here because what they're suggesting is that the development of a subclass of bard happens at 3rd level, and that's a significant difference from this in 5e because alternate versions of the same type of subclass are really just kind of chosen at level 1 and at the start of the game, and that's really what the significance of using a book like Xanathar's Guide to Everything. So, if you have the opportunity to attach a bard subclass or a feat between 3rd and 4th level, then you have the option to do it during the 3rd and 4th level. So, Jack of all trades, that's normal. Subclass feature, something it's given to you based on your subclass. Font of bardic inspiration, another feat, an expertise, a subclass feature, magical secrets, and then another feat at 12. Subclass feature, further magical secrets. What was the first time we got magical secrets? Well, maybe that's release. That's a new feature we're going to read about in a moment. And that happens all the way up at level 15. There's going to be some players that are never going to see that. So, to create a bard, consult the following list, which provide hit points, proficiencies, and armor training. Then look at the bard table. Hit dice 1d8 per bard level, 8 plus your constitution modifier. I think that's a little bit more elevated, but I think it's still basically about the same. Saving throws are in dexterity and charisma. Skills in deception, performance, or persuasion. Simple weapons and 3 musical instruments. Okay, so let's see. Starting equipment. At first level character, you start with the following equipment, or you can forgo it and spend 100 gold points on the equipment of your choice. Okay. Multi-classing in the bard. If your group uses the multi-classing rules in the player's handbook, here's what you need to do if you choose bard as one of your classes. As a multi-class character, you must have a score of at least 13 in the bard's primary ability, charisma, to take a level in this class or take another level in another class if you're already a bard. If a bard isn't your initial class, here are the proficiencies that you gain when you take your first bard level. 1 skill of your choice and 1 musical instrument of your choice. Os Devon says, I wish I remembered enough about the core classes to recognize the immediate difference. Yeah, it can be very hard. It can be very hard to pick out. It's even hard for me to pick out, I'll admit. It's really just the fact that I am still regularly playing 5e that I'm able to recognize some of these differences. And I might not even I might not even follow all of them, you know? I pride myself in being Brainy, the person who seems to know everything. But the wise man knows that he knows not, and as it just so happens, wisdom and intelligence are 2 different stats in Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, that would help a lot. They really should list differences. Let's see. Put it in red ink. Like, they're the words of Jesus, something, do something in order to distinguish them. Alright. Bard class features. First level, Bardic Inspiration. Yeah, okay, so, heal, boost to D20, heal, numbers of uses and higher levels, that's all pretty normal. First level spellcasting. Let's see. You've learned to cast spells through your bardic arts. Prepared spells. Color spray, disguise, self-prestidigitation, vicious mockery. Alternatively, you can prepare 2 0-level spells. Alternatively, you can prepare 2 0-level spells, 2 first-level spells of your choice. And whenever you finish a long rest, you can practice your bardic arts at higher levels in this class. You can prepare more spells as shown on the bard table. The numbers there determine the amount of different spells you can prepare each level. As a 3rd level bard, you can prepare 2 different 0-level spells, 4 different first levels, 2 different 2nd level spells. 2nd level expertise. 2 skill. You are an expert in 2 different skill proficiencies of your choice. 2nd level songs of restoration. At level 2, you would know Healing Word, and then 4th, Lesser Restoration, 6th, Mass Healing Word, 8th, Freedom of Movement, and 10th, Greater Restoration. Yeah, intelligence is book smarts and teachability, and wisdom is common sense. There's a pretty standard metaphor for this, it has to do with tomatoes, is that intelligence is knowing how to make intelligence is knowing that a tomato is edible. I've completely forgotten this metaphor. Maybe I'll look it up in a moment. Songs of Restoration repertoire. Oh, well, I already read that part. The Bard subclass. You gain the knowledge of lore subclass or another Bard subclass of your choice. The College of Lore is detailed under the Bard's class description, and other subclasses will appear in future Unearthed Arcana sub-articles. Oh, geez. So, we're not even going to go into the topic of subclass. I thought we were going to, but I don't think we're actually going to. 4th level feat. So you get an ability score improvement, feat, or another feat of your choice, which is becoming standard in every single class in this version of the game. 5th level, Jack of all trades. You can add half your proficiencies bonus to any ability check you make that uses a skill proficiency you lack and doesn't otherwise use your proficiency bonus. If you make a strength check and lack athletics, you can add half of your proficiency bonus to the check. Okay. That requires a little bit of math. I'm not too accustomed to building bards or playing as bards, but, I know at the very least, at putting your proficiency into an additional stat. 6th level subclass feature, another one from your Bard subclass, Font of Bardic Inspiration. Feat, another feat, Expertise. Another subclass feature, Magical Secrets feat subclass. Further magical secrets, this is what I was looking for. Your understanding of magic has grown even broader. Choose a spell list, Arcane, Divine, and Primal, so that you didn't choose for your magical secrets feature. And whenever you prepare your bard spells, 2 of the spells you prepare can be from the chosen list and from any school of magic. The prepared spells otherwise follow the rules of your bard spellcasting feature. So this is pretty impressive. But like I said, this is very high level, and it's going to be rare that you're actually going to see a bard that's going to be able to do this. But effectively, that means that you can choose one of the 3 major schools of magic, Arcane, Divine, and Primal, and then you can choose any spells from that school of magic to add to your repertoire, which is, pretty impressive. That kind of puts you up to wizard level. Superior Bardic Inspiration. When you roll initiative, you gain 2 expended uses of your Bardic Inspiration, a feat, and finally an Epic Boon. So Epic Boon, I think, still just kind of falls into the subcategory of feats. It's just really a short list of very specific things that you can do at the highest possible level that you're capable of doing. Okay, so that's pretty neat. I agree with that. D&D really is the real game unlocks when you reach max level, but max level takes like 15 years to reach. I'd say on a very good game, I will have a tendency to peak somewhere around level 7. And so, well, once again, there's a little bit more I have to say about that, but that's really going to also be part of the announcement towards the end of the stream. So thank you very much for continuing to watch out for that. Prepared bard spells, so this is really just the potential spell list. And then bard subclasses. Are we actually going to get into that? No, actually, they're only providing 1 subclass, and so this is something that is kind of regrettably one of the current features of 5e is that they say that you have a choice of subclass, but there's only 1 subclass for each class listed in the player's handbook. If you want an alternate one, then you have to go to Xanathar's Guide to Everything, Tasha's Cauldron of Anything, one of the 2. And then you have to find the other subclasses for the class. But that's really just the only, that's, kind of an expansion pack way of doing it. They only give you 1 subclass in the player's handbook, and this is very likely the one they're going to be doing. College of Lore. Bards of College of Lore usually know something about most things, collecting bits of knowledge from sources as diverse as scholarly tomes and peasant tales. Whether they're singing folk ballads in taverns or performing elaborate compositions in royal courts, these bards use their gifts to hold audiences spellbound. The college's members gather in libraries, sometimes in actual colleges, complete with classrooms and dormitories, to share their lore with one another. They also meet at festivals or affairs of state where they can expose corruption, unravel lies, and poke fun at self-important figures of authority. Third level bonus proficiencies. 3 skill proficiencies are in Arcana, History, and Nature. Um, Third level cutting words. A very unique bard ability, which just allows you to use a reaction to force an enemy in order to roll a bardic inspiration die and subtract the number of the creature's roll, potentially turning a roll into a failure. Cunning inspiration. Through your studies in your cunning, you've learned to inspire others exceptionally well. Where any creature rolls your bardic inspiration die, that creature can roll the die twice and use the higher of the 2 rolls. Improved cutting words. You can deal psychic damage to a creature equal to the number rolled on the bardic inspiration die plus your charisma modifier. So then you would just add your charisma modifier to a cutting words roll, which will cause the enemy, in order to potentially lose more in the elimination of their die. So, 14th level, Peerless Skill. When you make an ability check and you fail, you're going to spend 1 use of Bardic Inspiration, roll a die, and then add the number rolled to the ability check, potentially turning it into a success. So, it's just kind of slightly a save on Bardic Inspiration that you can effectively you can perform on yourself. And so that's kind of the differentiation, because Bardic Inspiration is always done on other members of your party. You'll get the opportunity to re-roll your dice at level 14. Okay, so we're getting ready to approach what has been something of a polarizing subject in 5e, and that is the Ranger. The Ranger in 5e has kind of been something of a source of controversy when it first came out in the Player's Handbook, once again in 2014. The Player's Handbook had a loadout for the Ranger that seemed to make it one of the weakest classes in the entirety of 5e. And so the issue, that kind of went on for a significant amount. At one point, they had created a proposed supplemental guide, and they released it officially, but it was never completely adapted into the 5e version of the Ranger. So they had opportunity to do an update with it. They chose not to, and so we were still stuck with the loadout of the Ranger in 5e. So I understand that this version of the Ranger does have the appropriate amount of improvements that people had previously been discussing. And, personally, I do like to play as Rangers, so I think I'll be able to make a better identification of these changes than I ordinarily would, than I would previously when I was talking about the Bard. Oh, I thought you said psionics. I thought you were gonna say psionics. Well, that's the thing, is that I don't even know if I can really go into psionics in the way that they appear in 5e. Simply because I don't think there really is psionics in 5e, other than some enemy characters that are capable of doing psionics in Spelljammer. But, that's a little bit of a tangent. I digress. And I also digress. So, let's go ahead and let's read about the Ranger in 5e. Let me see. To create a Ranger, armor training. If you're same thing. Hit points, proficiencies, and armor training. If you're making a first level character, consult the starting equipment section. Then look at the Ranger tables. Hit dice are 1d10 per Ranger level. Hit points at first level are 10 plus con. And then hit points after first levels are 6 plus your constitution. Saving throws are strength and dexterity. Skills are athletics, stealth, survival, or choose 3 from either animal handling, athletics, insight, investigation, nature, perception, stealth, and survival. So, once again, looking at the Ranger table, So, at level 1, you choose an expertise and a favorite enemy. Expertise refers to the kind of terrain that you're able to walk on. Your favorite enemy discusses an enemy type, such as zombie or infernal, that you want to specialize in, and you're able to roll advantage rolls based on that. And also, well, spellcasting. Spellcasting is really, really unique when it comes to the ranger because what you would refer to as a rangered spell, or what you would, I don't even know what I'm saying. What you would ordinarily refer to as a ranger's spell is actually something that seems like somebody would do if they were really, really adept at camping, hunting, and snaring. So a great amount of ranger spells resemble traps, like traps you can make, like circular snares on the ground, barbed wire around your campsite. And so we're going to see some of the examples when it comes to that. And so it's like an ability or something rather than a spell, and that's precisely what it is that it just seems to be, lists of abilities that the ranger can do that load out the same way as spells, but, just really seem to be very specific and very special techniques. All right. And so feat at 4th level once again. An extra attack at level 5. So that one, I think that one is actually new. Is that they're actually going to give you the ability to attack twice at level 5, which makes him which makes a ranger just a little bit better in terms of offense. And then subclass features again, roving. I think that merits a description. Let's see, feat, expertise, subclass, tireless. Effectively, at a level 11 and beyond, you take a little bit longer in order to gain points of exhaustion. Nature's Veil, Feral Senses, another feat, Foe Slayer feat, and an epic boon. Okay, so let's see. Multi-classing in the ranger. If your group has multi-classing rules, here's what you need to do. Okay, as a multi-class character, score. Okay, yeah, well, I think we went over the exact same thing with the Bard. Let's see. First level expertise, you get 2 skill proficiency as proficiencies of your choice. You get to choose a favorite enemy. So yeah, this actually doesn't have to do with terrain. I think there's another skill that actually has to do with terrain, but it's not expertise. I do apologize for that. I got that wrong. Yeah, so first level favored enemy, you can choose a specific type of foe, and you can... Okay, so this is slightly different. Okay, so you're adept at focusing your ire on a single foe. You always have the Hunter's Mark spell prepared, and it doesn't count against the number of spells you can prepare. Moreover, you don't have to concentrate on the spell once you cast it. It lasts for its full duration until you end it as a bonus action or until you're incapacitated. So this is significantly different from Favored Enemy as it appeared in 5e. And so I'd already described how it works in 5e. You just pick a type of monster, like a zombie or an infernal or an underdark or something like that. And then the ranger just has advantage on rolls when it comes to battling that enemy. So it seems that they're doing something completely different at this point. Is that every time that you're... Now from this point forward, anytime you're in an encounter, you can focus on a single enemy. And then you just get passive use of the spell Hunter's Mark. So yeah, that is a huge change. I kind of like the new one. And so that it makes a ranger very, very useful in every single individual encounter. And so that makes it a lot more stronger than, a ranger who has to wait for a specific enemy type in order to appear, in order to gain advantage. So yeah, that is a huge change, and that is very interesting. That's something that I might actually um, apply to my current rangers, since we are allowed to bring this prototype material into our D&D Beyond games. Let's see. First level spell casting. The player's handbook for the see the player's handbook for the rules on spellcasting. The information details how you use those rules as a ranger. Spell preparation. You have the following spells prepared: the Cure Wounds, Guidance, Hunter's Mark, and Thorn Whip. Alternatively, you can prepare 2 0-level spells and 2 first-level spells. So there seems to be a feature in these new versions where they really just kind of have a very short list of standard spells that some classes are going to have out of the gate, and so it's significant that you'll always have Cure Wounds and Hunter's Mark as a preload for the Ranger. So I guess in this situation, if you wanted to target somebody other than your favorite enemy, that would mean that you would switch your Hunter's Mark to that other enemy. But there's always an element of Hunter's Mark in every single encounter. So don't quote me on that one. I'm not sure that's exactly how that works, but I guess, we're going to delve a little deeper into this, and we're going to see, specifically what that means. At higher levels of the cast, you can take more spells according to the Ranger table. Consult the prepared Ranger spell sections for recommendations on which spells to prepare at higher levels. A spell marked with a dagger is always prepared and can't be replaced when you prepare spells. Okay. Spell slots at first level and higher. Wisdom is your spell casting ability. A druidic focus is a spell casting focus for the spells you prepare for this class. Okay. Second level is a fighting style. You gain choice of following fighting style feats of your choice: archery, defense, or 2-weapon fighting. The majority of rangers tend to choose archery because the very earliest versions of Ranger that were part of the original TSR Dungeons and Dragons book were people who were really, really adept at using a bow and arrow. So, it's just, you have a choice of being a defensive player or a 2-weapon fighting player, but, it's still pretty standard that a ranger would be the projectile fighter in your party. Third level gives you a subclass, 4th level a feat. 5th level gives you an extra attack. You can attack twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action on your turn. So, yeah, that's just... when you're a fighter, you typically have the option in order to choose one attack in order to turn into an extra attack. Rangers are just capable of doing that whenever you take an attack action on your turn. So that is very powerful. At 7th level, roving, your speed increases by 10 feet when you're not wearing heavy armor. And you also have climb and speed equal to your normal speed, which is, that's just a very efficient way of moving, suggesting that the Ranger is capable of moving through all terrain at roughly the same speed that it's capable of walking. 8th level is a feat. 9th level is an expertise. 10th level is a subclass. 11th level is tireless. Primal forces now help fuel you on your journeys, granting you the following benefits. Whenever you finish a short rest or a long rest, you give yourself a number of temporary hit points equal to 1d8 plus your proficiency. So, that's the fact is that you're going to be able to gain temporary hit points as a result of a long rest, which is something that I'm pretty well assume that no other class is capable of doing. And then the ability to decrease exhaustion. If you're exhausted, when you finish a short rest, your level of exhaustion decreases by 1. That's different from all other classes because I think, as we established when we had read the previous D&D 1, that there's a recent change in exhaustion, and effectively that change means that levels of exhaustion don't increase unless you take a long rest. And that is not true of the ranger. If the ranger happens to be a level 11, they can use tireless and they can remove exhaustion as a result of a short rest. And so let's see. Another feat, Nature's Veil. You invoke spirits of nature to magically hide yourself from view. As a bonus action, you can expend a spell slot and become invisible until the end of your turn. So that's giving yourself the invisibility spell as a bonus action. Subclass feature, and then feral senses, blind sight within a range of 30 feet, which that means that you're using alternate senses in order to allow yourself to continue to see even if your sight is incapacitated or if you're in the dark. If I ever come across this exhaustion status, if I may ask, what is it? Exhaustion has to do with just the ability of a character to become fatigued over time. If you're in a situation where, you don't take your long rest, then you're in a situation where you'll gain one level of exhaustion. One level of exhaustion will cause you to cause you to roll all of your skill checks at a disadvantage. And then that effectively just kind of ramps up over time, is that, if you stay awake for 2 nights, then you're going to start taking HP damage. You stop doing it for 3 nights, you're going to have to roll penalties on attacks, and then that just continues to ramp up until you actually manage to get a long rest. So, I personally think is probably one of the more realistic elements of Dungeons and Dragons, because you start to become more useless to your party in the event that you start to skip out on the important healthy things that you need to do. Another issue when it comes to exhaustion is that it is often said that elves are capable of gaining a long rest as a result of meditating for 4 hours. And so that's not entirely accurate. A elf still needs 8 hours of rest, but they need to meditate for 4 hours, and then they have to spend 4 hours doing an extremely light activity like reading, or simply just like standing watch at a camp. So they still need to rest for 4 hours, but 4 of those hours can be somewhat aware, while the other 4 hours have to be spent resting. And that's the way that actually works. Alright, so 4 hours of meditation and 4 hours of light activity. And so, keep that in mind if you have some wily player character who's trying to tell you otherwise, then it's not true. This is actually the way that elves rest. 18th level Foe Slayer, your Hunter's Mark now deals an extra 1d10 damage to a target. Once again, this is at a very high level, so it's very rare that you're actually going to have a player that's going to be capable of doing this. Then 19th level is another feat, and then 20th level is an epic boon. And so prepared ranger spells, so now we're going to look into, how rangers are unique in terms of prepared ranger spells. So let's take a look at this. So first and second levels, you have the abilities to so you have guidance. You're capable of getting the guidance and thorn whip cantrips. First level spells are Cure Wounds, Hunter's Mark, and Speak with Animals. So we went over that when we looked at the first level section. Third and fourth level rangers is a first level spell is Ensnaring Strike. If you're capable of attacking an enemy in melee or in range, then you are capable of ensnaring them. That means that they're not going to be able to move from a hex until they're capable of doing a strength or a dexterity check that will release them from the snare. And so if you're going to imagine this in a practical way, you have to think about somebody who is capable of shooting an arrow, and out of that arrow a net will spring out. So, that will temporarily restrain an enemy at a ranged attack and keep them in place until you choose to go into melee with them, or if you hit them again, or whatever you decide to do in the attack range. Bark skin is a passive form of armor. It is effectively just makes your skin as hard as wood. Ninth level rangers conjure a barrage. Elemental weapon is that turning ranged attack into a multiple attack, or creating a weapon out of a specific element. 10th level ranger has a cantrip message. I forget specifically how messages work, but it's really just kind of the sense that you have the ability to project a piece of information to another player character without it being openly spoken. And so I'm going to have to look that one up again. I don't think I fully have a grasp about how that's supposed to work. 13th and 14th level ranger, 4th level spell, freedom of movement, which is, the spell version of the completely passive movement that we already described before. 15th and 16th allow you to locate a creature. 17th and 18th allow you to conjure woodland beings and conjure volley. Come, my animal friends, like hand signals. Yeah, that's possible. The rogue also has a version of hand symbols that is known as Thieves' Cant, and we're probably going to be going into that a little bit later, because we're going to be talking about rogue in a moment. So subclasses. Once again, there's only one subclass here, and it's Hunter. You stalk prey in the wilds and elsewhere using your abilities to protect nature and people everywhere from forces that would destroy them. Hunter's Prey allows you to wear down even the most resilient foes. When you hit a creature with a weapon or an unarmed strike, the weapon or unarmed strike deals an extra 1d8 damage. So let me see. When you hit a creature as part of the attack weapon, so you can deal this damage only once per turn. Wow, that is pretty strong. Let me see. I was trying to see what the limitation of that is, but you can't do it like twice in a row if you've got the opportunity to attack twice, but you can do this extra damage once per turn, and that's at level 3, which actually makes it a pretty strong buff to any attack that you do, even at 3rd level. That is very powerful. Hunter's Lore, you can call on at 6th level, you can call on the forces of nature to reveal certain strengths and weaknesses of your prey. While your creature is marked by your Hunter's Mark, you know whether that creature has any immunities, resistances, and vulnerabilities. And so this is pretty significant because this makes the Ranger one of the few classes that is capable of determining what an enemy's weakness is. I think in previous versions they had, I believe the Cleric is capable of doing this. I think the Paladin is capable of doing this. I think a particularly adept wizard who knows a specific spell is capable of finding weaknesses, but now the Ranger can do it at 6th level, and it is in a situation where the creature is marked by Hunter's Mark. So yeah, that is incredibly. So that is a significant and very unique change to the Ranger. At a 10th level, you have a multi-attack. You always have the ability to conjure barrage prepared, and it doesn't count against the number of spells you can prepare. So you can do conjure barrage as a free action. And then if you can cast it with a 1st and 2nd level spell slot, the spell's damage is reduced by 1d8 for each spell slot below 3rd. Alright, so, and then Superior Hunter's Defense, which is at 14th level. When you're hit by an attack roll, you can use your action to have the attack's damage against yourself and redirect the other half of the damage to one creature that you see within 5 feet of yourself. So you have the ability to transfer damage to another creature. But once again, this is at the highest possible level that it can be, so it's very rare that you're actually going to be able to see it. Okay, so now we're on to the rogue. Expert, dexterity. Rogues rely on cunning, stealth, and their foe's vulnerability to get the upper hand in any situation. Rogues devote as much effort to mastering the use of a variety of skills as they do to perfecting their combat abilities, giving them broad capabilities that few other characters can match. When it comes to combat, rogues prioritize subtle strikes over brute strength. A rogue would rather make one precise strike than wear an opponent down with a barrage of blows. Some rogues began their careers as criminals, while others used their cunning to fight crime. Whether a rogue's relation to the law, no common criminal or officer of the law can match the subtle brilliance of the greatest rogues. Okay, armor training and the rogue table. Okay, so at level 1, they get, the basic loadout that all rogues are known for. That's an expertise, a sneak attack, and a thieves' cant. And so once again, thieves' cant is that very special language that rogues are capable of using to communicate with each other. And in the same way that Devin had suggested in the chat before, it is usually interpreted as a form of sign language, just a form of simple hand signals that they give to each other, that they are capable of having a discussion with, without you actually using their voices and alerting potential enemies. So let's see, a cunning action, a rogue subclass, an uncanny dodge, expertise, feat, evasion, reliable talent, a feat, subtle strike, subclass measure, slippery mind, feat, elusive, stroke of luck, feat, and epic boon. Okay. Okay. Sleight of hand and stealth are iconic choices if you have proficiency in them. So yeah, it is very important for you to boost your expertise, your proficiency in sleight of hand and stealth, if you expect to play as a rogue. First level is a sneak attack. When you take an attack action, you deal extra damage to one creature you hit with an attack roll if you're attacking with a finesse weapon like a knife or a ranged weapon, and at least one of the requirements is met, you have the advantage on the attack roll, or at least one of your allies is within 5 feet of the target, isn't incapacitated, and you don't have disadvantage on the attack roll. To determine the extra damage, roll a number of d6s equal to half of your rogue level rounded up, then add that dice together. The extra damage is the same as the weapon's damage type. First level, Thieves' Cant. You picked up various languages in the communities where you applied your roguish talents. You know Thieves' Cant in one other language of your choice. So, just at first level, you will know an additional language, and you'll know how to speak Thieves' Cant. A cunning action. Your quick thinking and agility will allow you to move and act quickly on your turn. You can take one of the following actions as a bonus action. Dash, disengage, or hide. So, it's significant to have dash as a cunning action, because you're going to be able to freely use the ability to move twice your ordinary speed when you're a rogue. Rogue subclass, feat, uncanny dodge. When an attacker hits you with an attack roll, you can use your reaction to have the attack's damage against you. 6th level subclass feature. You gain a feature from your rogue subclass. 7th level expertise. Expertise in 2 skill proficiencies of your choice. 8th level is a feat. 9th level is evasion. You can nimbly dodge out of the way of certain dangers when you're subjected to an effect that allows you to make a dexterity saving throw. To take only half damage, you instead take no damage if you succeed on the saving throw. 10th level feat and subclass feature. 11th level reliable talent. You refine your talents until they approach perfection. Whenever you make an ability check that chooses one of your skill or tool proficiencies, you can treat a d20 roll of 9 or lower as a 10. So, that'll allow you to, just bridge the gap between most skill checks. Because most skill checks, at minimum will require a 10. So you're able to count the 9 as a 10 in the event that you roll it. 12th level is a feat. 13th level is a subtle strike. When you attack, you know how to exploit a target's distraction. You have advantage on any attack roll that attacks a creature within 5 feet of at least one of your allies who isn't incapacitated. 15th level, Slippery Mind. Your Cunning Mind is exceptionally difficult to control. You gain proficiency in Wisdom and Charisma saving throws. Then 17th level is Elusive. You're so evasive that attackers rarely gain the upper hand against you. No attack roll has advantage against you while you aren't incapacitated. So, it prevents anybody from rolling advantage against you. Stroke of Luck. If you fail a d20 test, you can turn the roll into a 20. So yeah, anytime you do a skill roll, you can change it into a d20, and then afterwards you can have to take a short or long rest in order to get the ability again. And then feed an epic boon. That's 19th and 20th level once again. So, once again, we have one description of subclass. This one is Thief. The third level is Fast Hands. You have additional options for your cunning action. You can do the following. You can do a search, or you can do a sleight of hand. In the third level, you do second story work. You've trained to reach especially hard to reach places, gaining climb speed equal to your normal speed, and jump distance with a dexterity check instead of a strength check. At 6th level Supreme Sneak, you have the advantage on every dexterity check. You have, provided you aren't wearing medium or heavy armor. 10th level, use Magic Device. If you're treasure hunting, you've learned how to maximize the use of magic items. You can attune up to 4 magic items at once, which is, yeah, that's tremendous. The fact is that if you happen to find enchanted items, you're capable of putting 4 of them into active use. I think people are actually just limited to 1, so that's a tremendous difference, you know. But once again, that's at a very high level. Scrolls, you can use any spell scroll that has a cantrip or first level spell on it. So, ordinarily, you would not be able to do magic as a rogue unless you were at level 10. And then 14th level is Thieves' Reflexes. You now take a second bonus action on your turn, provided it is the bonus action of the cunning action, which that's pretty significant because it gives you a second bonus action, and we've already seen how many exceptional abilities that a rogue is capable of doing if they have a bonus action. So, okay, so let's see. Feats, parts of a feat. Let me see. Okay, I think this is the section that is, describing some of the feats that are special features that are not tied to a single class. So, everybody has the ability in order to equip these in the feats section of their class level table. Up. What is that? Okay, oops. I accidentally turned on a video on my cell phone. Alright. So, feat descriptions. Let's see. Ability score improvement is a 4th level feat. So, one of the feats that you can do is that you can add a second ability score improvement to your chart. If you want to do that, if you can just go ahead and raise an ability score improvement instead of taking a feat. Actor, you're skilled at mimicry and dramatics. You can increase your charisma score by 1 to a maximum of 20. Impersonation, when you're disguised as a fictional person, you have advantage on charisma checks that convince others that you are that person. And mimicry, mimicking the sounds of other creatures, including speech. You have to listen to a creature for at least 1 minute. Anytime you add thereafter, you make a DC 15 charisma check to perform the mimicry, and you can perform it convincingly for up to 1 hour. An athlete, increase your strength, dexterity, or constitution score by 1 to a maximum of 20. You gain a climb speed equal to your speed. When you're prone, you can hop up with only 5 feet of movement, which increases the ability for you to recover if you're ever knocked over. And then jumping is advantage on any ability check that you can make for the jump action. A charger is trained to charge headlong into battle. Increases your strength or dexterity score. Every one of these has ability score improvements. It's just unlike a chosen one. You don't. Well, that's basically what it is. You don't have a choice about which ability score you improve unless you choose ability score improvement. Improved dash. Your speed increases by 10 feet when you dash. And then charge attack. If you move at least 10 feet in a straight line immediately before hitting with an attack as part of the attack action, you can choose the following effects. Gain a plus 1d8 bonus to attack's damage roll, or push the target up to 10 feet provided the target you want to push is no more than one size larger than you. Okay. Crossbow expert, 4th level. Helps you get proficiency with crossbows. You have you increase your dexterity score. You ignore loading. You're capable of firing a crossbow in melee, and you're also able to dual wield. So I'm not necessarily sure dual wielding applies to both a melee or a ranged weapon. When you make the extra attack of the light weapon properly, you can add your ability modifier to the damage of the extra attack if that attack is with a crossbow. Okay, I think that's precisely what it means. You can attack, and then you can shoot the crossbow. Defense's duelist ability score increases in dexterity. You have the ability to parry. You can use a reaction to add your proficiency bonus to your armor class for that attack, potentially causing the attack to miss you. A dual wielder. So, in addition to a crossbow expert, you just have characters that are well known for wielding 2 weapons. Ability score increase, strength or dexterity. Enhanced dual wielding. When you're holding a weapon with a light property in one hand, you can treat a non-light weapon in your other hand as if it had the light property. Which means that, in the event that you are holding a short sword and a long sword, you're capable of using the long sword with the same amount of dexterity as you would a short sword. And quick draw. You can draw or stow 2 weapons that lack the two-handed property, when you normally would be able to draw or stow only one. Okay, durable. Let's see. This is ability score increasing constitution, allows you to defy death, and gives you a speedy recovery. So you have advantage on death saving throws, so that prevents you from your character potentially dying after his hit points drop to 0. And then speedy recovery. As a bonus action, you can expand one of your hit dice, roll a die, and regain a number of hit points equal to the roll. So that's as a bonus action. Elemental Adept. Let's see. Increases your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. Choose one of the following damage types: acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder. Spells you cast ignore resistance to damage of the chosen type. In addition, when you roll damage for a spell you cast that deals damage of the type, you can treat any one on a damage die as a 2. An epic boon of combat prowess. When you mess with a melee attack, you get hit instead. Once you use this benefit, you can't use it again until you roll initiative. Epic boon of dimensional travel. You can cast Misty Spell without expanding a spell slot. Epic boon of energy resistance. And so these are all the 20 level feats. These are just things that you get when you're the highest level possible. You gain resistance to following damage types of your choice: acid, cold, fire, lightning, necrotic, poison, psychic, radiant, or thunder. Epic boon of fortitude. Your hit point maximum increases by 40. In addition, whether you gain your hit points, you will gain additional hit points to your constitution modifier. You're going to regain these additional hit points no more than once per round. Let's see. Epic boon of irresistible offense. The damage you deal always ignores resistance. Epic boon of luck. Epic Boon of the Night Spirit. While in dim light or darkness, you can become invisible as an action. Epic Boon of Peerless Aim. If you make a ranged attack against a target and miss, you can use the attack to hit instead. So that's just changing missed attacks into hits. If you use this benefit, you can't use it again until you roll initiative. So just once in every single full battle, you're capable of doing that. Epic Boon of Recovery. Use your bonus action to regain a number of hit points equal to half your hit point maximum. And then you're only capable of doing it again after a long rest. Epic Boon of Skill Proficiency. Proficiency in all skills. Epic Boon of Speed. Epic Boon of Undetectability. You can't be seen or heard by any means, magical or non-magical, while you are hitting. That is amazing. Okay, Epic Boon of the Unfettered. You can take the disengage action, which also ends the grappled and restrained conditions on you. So you're incapable of being... So you're able to immediately get out of a grapple. Fighting style, archery. And so this is just kind of describing feats that are capable of being applied to you in terms of fighting style. Archery, defense, dueling, great weapon fighting, protection, 2-weapon fighting, and then from this point forward we go to 4th level, where we are capable of becoming a grappler. You increase your strength by 1 to a maximum of 20. You have advantage on attack rolls against a creature grappled by you. And then you aren't slow when you move a creature grappled by you. And when you hit a creature with an unarmed strike as part of the attack action, you can also deal damage to the target and also grapple it. So, this makes you just a more adept grappler and, just allows you to hold opponents and attack them at the same time. The Great Weapon Master. Proficiency with any martial weapon. You've learned to use the weight of a weapon to your advantage, letting its momentum power your strikes. You increase your strength score by 1 to a maximum of 20. Immediately after you score a critical hit with a melee weapon or reduce a creature to 0 hit points with 1, you can make 1 attack with the same weapon as the bonus action. That's completely brutal. And Heavy Weapon Mastery. When you hit a creature with a heavy weapon as part of the attack action, you can cause that weapon to deal extra damage to the target. So you're basically hitting somebody with their own broadsword. Yeah, always one of my favorite feats. Okay, so heavily armored. Increases your constitution by 1 to a maximum of 20. And then you have the ability to use heavy armor. So, in the event you're not using a character that can wear heavy armor, you can have heavily armored, and then that character can wear heavy armor. Heavy Armor Master. You can use heavy armor to deflect strikes, giving you the following benefits. Increase your constitution by 1 to a maximum of 20. And when you're hit by attack while wearing heavy armor, any bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage is reduced by an amount equal to your proficiency bonus. So if you're an expert at wearing heavy armor, then you get to just simply reduce any attack to your heavy armor by the amount of your proficiency. Alright. Inspiring Leader. Wisdom score increase, encouraging performance at the end of a short rest or long rest. You give an inspiring performance, a speech, a song, or a dance. When you do, choose up to 6 friendly creatures within 30 feet of you. The chosen creatures each gain temporary hit points equal to 2d4 plus your proficiency. I've seen that used pretty frequently in Critical Role at the first season, at least. Let's see, Keen Mind. You have the ability to recall or discover vital details, granting you the following benefits. Intelligence goes up by 1. Lore knowledge will gain proficiency in a lore knowledge of a chosen skill: history, investigation, nature, or religion. And then study is capable of being done to you through you as a bonus action. Gosh, that would be sweet. Lightly armored. So Light armor, medium armor, and shield, and that's at first level once again. A Mage Slayer. I think I take personal offense at this one. You practice techniques useful in battling magic users. Your strength and dexterity goes up by 1 concentration breaker. When you damage a creature that is concentrating, it has disadvantage on saving throws in order to maintain concentration. And a guarded mind. If you fail in intelligence, wisdom, or charisma, you cause yourself to succeed instead. Once you use this benefit, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. Okay. Medium Armor Master, gives you training in medium armor. You can add, if you're wearing medium armor, then you can add 3 rather than 2 to your AC if you have a dexterity score of 16 or higher. So that allows you to just increase the overall armor class that you would have if you were wearing medium armor. A mounted combatant, you have developed a bond with your mounts, granting you the following ability. Strength, dexterity, or wisdom goes up by 1. You have advantage on wisdom checks in animal handling made to handle or train horses or other beasts employed as mounts. And then mounted strike, while mounted, you have advantage on attack rolls against any creature. You're an expert jouster. Leap aside, if your mount is subjected to an effect that allows it to make a dexterity saving throw to take only half damage, it instead takes no damage. And then veer, if you're mounted, you can use your action to force an attack that hits your mount to hit you instead. So you have the ability to protect the animal that you're riding by taking the damage instead. It reminds me when I got my griffin and I became a flying half orc. Interestingly, I was once a full half orc that was riding a manticore, but that's just old glory. Observant. Increase your intelligence or wisdom by 1. Choose a skill to gain proficiency in insight, investigation, or perception. And then quick search. You gain the search action as a bonus action. Yeah, true freedom. Polearm Master. Train extensively with pole weapons that have reach, granting you the following benefits. Increase your strength by 1. Immediately after you take the attack action and attack with a weapon that has the heavy and reach properties, you can use a bonus action to make a melee attack with the opposite end of the weapon. So that's effectively striking twice if you are using a quarterstaff. The weapon's damage die is D4 and it deals bludgeoning damage. So it does slightly less damage than the very first attack would do, but it's still bonus damage. And then reactive strike. You can use your reaction to make 1 melee attack against a creature that enters a reach once you have that weapon. So then that just kind of gives you the advantage of hitting an enemy that attempts to go into melee with you. Resilience. You develop the resilience to better withstand certain dangers. Let me see. Choose one ability in which you lack saving throw proficiency and increase the chosen ability score by 1. So you just get the ability to increase the saving throw of an action that you don't already have. And then you gain saving throw proficiency with the chosen ability. A ritual caster has studied ritual magic, granting you the following benefits. Intelligence, wisdom, or charisma goes by 1. Choose 2 first level spells that have the ritual tag from the Arcane, Divine, and Primal spell list. You always have those 2 spells prepared, and you can cast them with any spell slots you have. The spell casting ability is the ability to increase by this feat. And then a quick ritual. With this benefit, you can cast a ritual spell that you have prepared using its regular casting time rather than the extended time for a ritual. Doing so doesn't require a spell slot, so this speeds up the time that you're capable of casting ritual spells. Sentinel, proficiency with any martial weapon. Increase your strength or dexterity score by 1 to a maximum of 20. Immediately after a creature within 5 feet of you takes a disengage action or hits a target other than you with an attack, you can make an opportunity attack against that creature. And then when you hit a creature with an opportunity attack, the creature's speed becomes 0 for the rest of the turn. Sharpshooter. You can make shots that others find impossible, giving you the following benefits. Increase your dexterity. Your ranged attacks ignore half cover and 3/4 cover. And while fighting in melee, being within 5 feet of an enemy does not impose disadvantages on your ranged attack rolls with weapons. And long shots attacking at long range doesn't impose disadvantage on your ranged attack rolls with weapons. So you effectively just don't have disadvantage when it comes to using your ranged weapon. Shieldmaster, I've had this one before in a version of once when I played Dungeons and Dragons version 4. You increase your strength score by 1. You can shield bash if you attack a creature within melee with you. You can immediately bash the target with your shield, forcing it to make a saving throw equal to 8 plus your strength modifier. And on a failed save, you knock the target prone or push it 5 feet away. So it's like a charge, but it is as a result of using your shield as a bonus action. And an interposed shield, if you're subjected to an effect that allows you to make a dexterity saving throw and take only half damage, you can use your reaction to take no damage if you succeed on the saving throw and if you're wielding a shield, imposing your shield between yourself and the source of the effect. Skulkers are good at sinking through shadows. Blind Sight, it gives you a range of 10 feet. Fog of War. Exploiting distraction of battle, you have advantage on any dexterity check. And Sniper, if you make an attack roll while hidden and the roll misses, making the attack roll doesn't end the hidden condition on you. And then Speedster gives you exceptional speed and stamina. Increases your dexterity or constitution score by 1. Your speed increases by 10 feet while you aren't wearing heavy armor. And you're capable of dashing over difficult terrain. Let me see. Spell Sniper. You've learned the techniques to enhance your attack with certain kinds of spells. Ability score increases your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma score by 1 by a maximum of 20. Bypassing covers, your attack rolls for spells ignore half cover and 3/4 cover. And then casting in melee. Being within 5 feet of an enemy does not impose disadvantage on your attack rolls with spells. And increased range. When you cast a spell that has a range of at least 10 feet and requires you to make an attack roll, you can increase the spell's range by 60 feet. Okay, so Warcaster. Spelling or packed magic feature. Let's see. You've practiced casting spells in the midst of combat, granting you the following benefits. Intelligence, wisdom, or charisma goes by 1 to a maximum of 20. Concentration gives you an advantage on constitution saving throws. And a reactive spell, when a creature provokes an opportunity attack by moving out of your reach, you can use your reaction to cast a spell at the creature. Well, that gives you the ability to attack a retreating opponent using a spell, which is pretty advantageous if you're a spellcaster. And somatic components, you can perform the somatic components of spells even when you have weapons or a shield in one or both hands. So you're capable of casting spells even when you have weapons in your hand. So that is definitely a feature of somebody who would be a warcaster. And so this is the final feat. This is weapon training. You've practiced extensively with a variety of weapons. Strength and dexterity scores go up by 1, and you gain martial weapon proficiency. I was going to say it sounds like a spell sword. Well, I somewhat disagree with that, because a spell sword is really only just a spell with an elemental property. In this situation, they're saying that you're a war-torn person. You might already be carrying a sword and a shield, but having a sword and a shield in your hand does not prevent you from casting a spell, and that's ferocious, Okay, so then spells lists. The only real difference here is that they're beginning to list spells in one of the 3 major classes: Arcane, Divine, and Primal. which is kind of a departure from 5e because spells were always allocated to specific classes. And so if you have the opportunity to choose a spell from all the arcane spells, then these are exactly the same spells that you would find if you were in the player's handbook. So there's not a lot to read here. They're just really sorting these out by those three main schools. Everything here is going to be a arcane spell. Everything from here to here is going to be a divine spell. And then everything from here to here is going to be a primal spell. And then, the last few pages are going to be devoted to the rules glossary, which, describes everything that, we've been discussing in the pages up above, like ability checks, armor training, artisan's tools, attacks, arcane spells, bear skins, and d20 tests. So we can, we can just gloss over this as well because, if you've played basic D&D, you've probably had experiences, running into situations like swim speed, tool proficiency, and unarmed strikes. And so that's what the remainder of this information is. And so that is the end of D&D 1. The second module that they put out for D&D 1. Once again, for everything that we've read, there aren't that many overt changes. They are definitely putting a lot of emphasis on you having feats and having your abilities customized specifically as a result of gaining feats at 3rd and 6th level. Oh, actually, no, that's my mistake. At 4th and 7th level. And I think, probably what's most significant is the changes that they made to Ranger. Ranger is now a lot more effective, particularly in terms of providing an attack as a part of being a participant in initiative. And so that is tremendous, is that they were capable of doing that. It makes me want to try Ranger now, honestly. Well, I'm capable of trying out Ranger in D&D Beyond. I can, create a character in Ranger, and then I'm capable of applying these prototype skill increases to that. Everybody else just basically seems to be modified as a result of using feats. So, there are some slight changes here. Is that, I'm probably going to do a specific review of what's different, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill out my survey. And so unlike the first time that I filled out my survey, I am going to take the time in order to do another stream, do another Tabletop Lore stream, and I will very likely fill out my survey opinions while I'm on the stream. So that is the end of our review of D&D 1. So we're running a little long on time, and this is basically because I spent all of that time describing the feats. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get to the homebrew, but I'm just going to go ahead and save that for now, and we're going to go ahead and do that for next week. What's a little bit more important is that we finished the rest of Light of xaryxis. There's only just a few chapters left of this, and so we're just going to, try to read through as much of the story as we possibly can. Hold on a second, I'm going to get my water. Devin says that sounds good. I'm going to fill one out myself and see if I can suggest if they have some sort of chart or otherwise mention what was changed in these and how. Well, the thing is, I don't think Wizard is going to be the ones to do that, but I'm sure there's going to be just a lot of YouTube pundits. There's going to be just a lot of online streamers, and just a lot of people who write in the Dungeons and Dragons related press about it. And those are the resources that I would go for. Just to give yourself the short version, to give yourself the crib notes version of everything that they changed. All right, so just like the previous time that I was reading this, I want to make absolutely sure that I'm not reading anything that actually pertains to players' actions. So I'm going to read, material that that the dungeon master is going to read to people that are playing, and some of the basic mechanics of the situation that they're going to get into. But I'm going to gloss over, specific details when it comes to dungeons and anything that might potentially be a spoiler to anybody who wants to run this. All right, so this is where we are, Chapter 9, Discord and Diplomacy. When we last left off in Chapter 8, we were fighting in an arena battle to the benefit of a merchant by the name of, what was his name? Vocanth. A merchant by the name of Vocanth. And so after that, I believe that, whoops, I think I scrolled forward too much. So, let's see. When the last arena match ends, but before the characters have a time to rest or take any further actions, a portion of the dome above the arena shatters, startling the spectators and causing shards of crystal to fall like rain. A serpentine dragon with scintillating scales and nebulous wings sweeps down through the hole. Mounted on his back is an armored figure whose face is hidden behind a visor. The figure calls out, sorry. That's not what the figure called out. The figure calls out, "I am Prince Zeleth of the xaryxis Empire. I have come for my sister Zidali. Surrender her to me, you rats, or be annihilated." So, here we are in a situation, villainous. This is what I sometimes refer to as villainous deus ex machina, We haven't encountered the person who is capable of causing all of the chaos and discord up until this point. But suddenly he does show up while we're doing something completely unrelated, which in this case, was fighting in the merchant's arena battle. Chapter 9, Discord and Diplomacy. To build a coalition against the xaryxis Empire, the characters came to terms with a merchant named Vocanth and fought monsters for his amusement. At the end of the final battle, Prince Zeleth of the xaryxis Empire appeared on the dragon, determined to take Princess Zidali into his clutches. So, the session opens with Princess Zidali trying to keep her hopes alive while protecting everyone around her from the wrath of her brother, Prince Zeleth, who has Vocanth's base surrounded. Zeleth has come for his sister. If Zidali is either dead or presumed dead, obtain her ring of shooting stars, which it will be enough to satisfy Zeleth because he can use it as proof of Zidali's demise. If Zeleth gains custody of Zidali or claims the ring as proof of her death, his fleet withdraws from Doomspace, allowing the characters to renew their efforts to unite Doomspace factions against the xaryxis Empire. Zeleth's attack on Vocanth's base is proof of the threat posed by the Astral Elves, giving the factions a common enemy. Prince Zeleth is a chaotic, evil Astral Elf aristocrat who wears a ring of shooting stars. After learning of his sister's demise After learning of his sister's escape from custody, Zeleth used the power of the Astral Font to cast divination. The spell enabled him to determine the whereabouts of his sister's ring of shooting stars. The young solar dragon that appeared at the end of the previous session was summoned by Zeleth using a summon the solar dragon spell. The figure riding the dragon is not Zeleth himself, but an illusion of him created by Zeleth's mislead spell. As long as he maintains concentration, Zeleth can interact with anybody present through this illusion. Alright, so we're starting to get into spoiler territory here. Let's move forward a little bit. If the characters ask Zeleth why he wants his sister, he replies, "Our father is dead. When I become emperor, I want my sister present at my coronation." News of the Emperor Zevan's death comes as no surprise to Princess Zidali, but she knows her brother well enough to assume he's not being entirely truthful at the rest of it. Which, suggests that he was the one who ended up killing his father. Zidali clarifies Zeleth's motivation, addressing Vocanth and the characters with this reply. "Not everyone in the xaryxis Empire supports Zeleth's claim to the throne. He needs me to legitimize it and prevent any unrest that might otherwise occur. No matter, I see that I have no choice but to return home with my brother." Let's see. So let's see. So without saying too much, Zadali is more than likely going to throw her ring to a player character and say, "You'll need my ring to save your world. I've dropped the ring in the sand. Keep it safe. I'll be waiting for you in xaryxis space." And so then, let me see. After parting with her rings, Adali surrenders to her brother. So there's a two-pronged situation going on here. As either the player characters might already have the ring and they can use it in order to suggest that the princess is dead, or Zadali will throw the ring and then go back into the custody of her evil brother, but you'll retain the Ring of Shooting Stars in order to move on to the next section. And so, let's see. Alliance and Doomspace. After Zelith is placated and his fleet withdraws from Doomspace, Vokath arranges a gathering in his private sanctum, Area 5 of Vokath's base as described in Chapter 8. This meeting is attended by the characters and representatives of the 5 Doomspace faction. Vokath and his bodyguards are also here observing the proceedings in silence. To forge a coalition, the characters must redirect the faction's animosity toward the Xaryxian Empire. The representatives with whom they must speak are summarized in the faction representatives table. Okay. This story is actually pretty neat, and I appreciate skipping over potential spoilers. Okay, so representatives of the faction of the factions. Oh well, these are the people who are currently rebelling against the Xaryxian Empire. Dekar, a neutral human bandit captain. Rika, a natural good Aarakocra. Takana, chaotic neutral 3 Kreen mystic. Vortshu, a chaotic neutral Artuk elder. And Zothis, a neutral Saurian defiler. So, the majority of these representatives are aliens that were previously in Blue's Astral Menagerie. Faction's attitude towards the party depends on what the characters have accomplished. 2 of the factions are friendly towards the characters by virtue of their victory in the arena battles. The remaining 3 factions are indifferent to the characters. If the characters ever did anything to antagonize a faction, then that faction is hostile towards them, regardless of their performance in the arena battles. And then the characters can improve a faction's attitude by influencing that faction's representative. The best the characters can hope for is to align the factions against their common enemy, the Xaryxian Empire. So this largely applies to what the DM wants to do, how the DM role plays the characters, and how the player characters handle their diplomacy discussions. So let's see. So, I mean, this section right here, I believe, is a hypothetical. So I'll read it just for the purposes of an example of what I just described. A character approaches Vortshu, the Artuk elder, who is indifferent towards them, tries to convince Vortshu that war against the Xaryxian Empire would elevate Artuks in the eyes of their gods. It's a sound approach given Artuk's devotion to the gods of war. But the character gets a failure on their charisma persuasion check, so Vortshu refuses to join the coalition, perhaps making the argument that the Thri-Kreen are a greater threat to the Arkuts than the Xaryxian Empire. Further attempts to sway Vortshu fail automatically until the character is convinced another faction represented to join their coalition. Having previously won over the Aarakocra, the characters now set their sights on Takana. Unlike Vortshu, Takana is indifferent towards the characters. To improve her attitude, the characters give her the spell-jamming helm they took from the Dark Star in Chapter 2. This was a gift, fabulous enough to improve Takana's attitude to friendly. Then the character sees it in the DC 10 Charisma Persuasion check, convincing Takana to join the coalition. With the Thri-Kreen now on board, the characters can make another attempt to convince Vortshu to join the coalition. So that is all hypothetical. You know, that that kind of conversation with non-player characters could go in any kind of direction. So Dakar, the human representative, he commands the Tereska space galleon, which he often sounds terse even when he's speaking unemotionally. He and his crew dress plainly and wield weapons made from bone. What War is not something Dakar longs for, but he seeks to acquire better weaponry nonetheless. His crew also clamors for healing kits, tools, and musical instruments. And so there's some tips about how the player characters can influence them. Rika, the Arakroka representative, the oldest crew member of the Shrike ship, Skyra, and her chief advisor to his captain, Krish. Rika's faction is concerned about personal freedom. Rika looks forward to guiding his people to a new wild space system where they can thrive. Takana serves as the spelljammer aboard the Scorpion ship Rusk and is keen to acquire more spelljamming helms and food supplies for our faction. I think we already discussed that they can be brought to the table with the help of the spelljamming helm that you had previously found. Vorshu, the captain of the Lamprey ship Remora, the Artuk representative, is a warmonger who instigated a conflict with the Thrycreen. The Thrycreen have since acquired a taste for Artuk flesh. Wow. There's one person in this faction that wants to eat the other one. Tough crowd. Zorthres, the Sauron representative. The Sauron of Freyan are acclimating to life in wild space. Their leader Zorthres commands the warp ship Gadabout. Zorthres needs money to repair her ship's broken leg and pay off debts to Vokath. She demands treasure in exchange for her support. And so then, assembling the fleet, every one of them owns this many. Every one of these species has this number of ships. Aarakocras have 5 Shrike ships. Artuks have 5 Lamprey ships. Humans have 3 space galleons. The Mercanes have 2 Hammerhead ships. The Surans have 6 Wasp ships, and the Thrycreen have 4 Scorpion ships. The Red Dragon Rider. From now on, the adventure makes no assumption about which ship the characters are traveling on, but it's important for the characters to be together. A few hours after they return to the Astral Sea, they have the following encounter. The silvery sorry about that. The silvery fog catches the light of the distant stars and coalesces into clouds that vaguely resemble faces, as inscrutable as they are enormous. Perhaps these are the visages of gods watching over you, or perhaps they are merely figments of the astral plane, stray thoughts given form. None of that matters, as a distant roar draws your attention to the cloudly visages, from whose mouth emerges a large red dragon. Riding the dragon is a knight clad in golden armor, their face hidden behind a fearsome visor shaped like a dragon scrawling visage. And that's the end of chapter 9. Okay, so part 4, beginning with chapter 10, Saviors of the Multiverse. Beginning with chapter 10, Space Invaders. After the Xaryxian Empire attacked their world, the characters journeying to Doomspace and formed a coalition with a fleet of ships accompanying them. They set out for xaryxis space, encountering a red dragon and his rider around the way. Dagaz, a Githranki knight, is hunting mind flayers in the Astral Sea. Dagaz and her dragon mount flight only in self-defense and are at best a fleeting distraction. The real trouble begins when the characters enter xaryxis space and make their way to the Imperial Citadel of the Xaryxian Empire, which is protected by a fleet of star moths. The Knight of Turnath. A lawful evil Githranki knight named Dagaz rides a male young red dragon. The creatures begin the encounter 500 feet from the character's ship. Dagaz and the dragon are initially indifferent towards the characters. If the dragon is not attacked right away, it circles the character's ship once as it identifies a safe place to land, and then lands gently on the deck. Dagaz casts tongues on himself and addresses the characters moments later. The armored knight lifts the visor of her helm, revealing the stern visage of Githranki. "I am Dagaz, Knight of Turnaround," she says in a haughty tone. "By order of Vlaakith the Undying, Queen of the Astral Sea, I declare that you are guilty of the crime of trespassing. As your punishment, it is my solemn duty to decapitate your captain. So which one of you dung ears commands this barge? A bad joke on my point. I wish... So, yeah, after a beat, she smiles and adds, oh, bad joke on my part. I wish you safe passes through Her Majesty's realm. My dragon and I are hunting mind flayers. Have you seen any? Sick humor. So, then things will go without a hitch in the event the player characters don't attack them on sight. Otherwise, this could be a really particularly nasty encounter. You'll more than likely have to take Red Dragon stats out of the monster manual in order for you to have this impromptu Red Dragon battle. So once the characters arrive within 1 mile of the Imperial Citadel, you read, ahead you see a giant crystal-shaped spired city on the back of an asteroid shaped like a moth, with shipyards spouting from its wings. Atop the moth's head stands a magnificent temple. A beam of light stretches from a crystal atop the temple towards the bright white star xaryxis. An armada of crystal-winged ships patrols the region between your fleet and the citadel. The closest enemy ship is about 1,000 feet away, so I think from this point forward, I think what we're going to be describing is we're going to be describing full-on ship-class war. If I were running this scenario, I would run it in a way where we would completely and totally skip any kind of player-character interaction, and we would go straight to ship stats. I would have the player characters effectively commanding the ship that is heading towards the center of xaryxis, and then, just describing NPC attacks from all of the other ships that are in the fleet that you assembled in the previous chapter. Yeah, war. Full-on, total war. And so, the Xaryxian Armada consists of 30 star moths, each one crewed by an Astral Elf honor guard who serves as the captain, an Astral Elf star priest who serves as the ship's spelljammer, and 11 Astral Elves warrior. When the two fleets meet in battle, the Xaryxis singles out the character's ships while the rest of the Armada engages the other ships in the character fleet. So, Xaryxia and the other character ships are 1,000 feet apart at the start of the encounter. So you're going to have to battle one ship while everything else is going on in the background. That makes things even easier than the way I just described it. Do you have your loyalty to Zedali or Zeleth? The crew of Xaryxia is loyal to Prince Zeleth, but not all ships in the Xaryxian Armada share that loyalty. To determine the political leanings of another Star Moss crew, roll a d6. On a roll of 1 to 3, the crew is loyal to Zeleth. On a 4 to 6, the crew is loyal to Zedali. Wow. The allegiance of the entire elf army is down to a d6 roll. If a character manages to show Zedali's ring of shooting stars to one or more crew members, a successful persuasion check improves the attitude of that crew, changing it from hostile to indifferent. Alright, well, not even necessarily on your side, just indifferent. Okay, we're just going to go ahead, we're going to turn our little ship around, and we're going to pretend none of this ever happened. I do community service on Saturday nights, and it would be really bad for me if the word got out that I was part of this Imperial Armada. Risk and reward to an extreme, yeah, pretty much. Okay. 7 young solar dragons born in the fiery heart of xaryxis fly around the beam of light. So this is probably getting past the army and towards the star of xaryxis. 7 dragons with multicolored scales and gaseous wings slither through wild space with their mouths agape like hungry serpents. 2 of them break off from the others and head towards your ship. Let me see. Final approach. Assuming that the characters survive the Xaryxia and the 2 solar dragons that attacked them, probably from the last assemblage, it becomes obvious the rest of their fleet is doomed. In response, they can fight on, surrender, or make a break for the Citadel. And so then you just have 2 alternate descriptions about what they do. If they surrender or are defeated, you say you watch your allies lay down their arms and surrender. Now prisoners of the Xaryxis Empire, you're taken to the Imperial Citadel to face justice. Maybe this was your plan for getting into the Citadel all along. Maybe not. Either way, all is not lost. And if they were to avoid capture and they head for the Citadel, they say the Imperial Citadel looms large, its crystal spires reflecting the light of Xaryxis. It is here in the heart of the Xaryxian Empire that you will decide the fate of your world. And that's the end of chapter 10. Assuming if you make it that far. But once again, this all depends largely on player activity. How well do they play the situation where they encounter the Armada, and how well do they play the encounter of running into the 2 out of the 6 solar dragons that are protecting the star. Okay, so Xaryxis Space. Part 4 of the adventure takes place in a wild space system under the control of the Xaryxian Empire. Xaryxis is a white-hot star that is both the literal and figurative heart of the Astral Elves' empire. The Astral Elves discovered how to harness the star's power, using it to fuel their magic. When, after 1,000 years of exploitation, Xaryxis' light began to dim. The Astral Elves began harvesting astral seeds from the star to tap the energy of other celestial bodies, and use it to replenish the strength of their star. Xaryxis Space is a small wild space system consisting only of the central star and 3 natural satellites, plus a floating citadel constructed by the Astral Elves, who are the system's primary inhabitants. The Xaryxis Space table and the accompanying diagram provide an overview of this system. The planet Vidurian is an irregular Earth body, 600 million miles and 6 days travel from the edge of the system. Ravus is a spiritual Earth body, 500 million miles or 5-day travel from the distance of the outer edge of the system. Zarander is a spherical Earth body with 1 moon that is 4,100 million miles away. And the Imperial Citadel is a city in space that's 400 million miles away. It really is just one great big circle because everything is an equal amount of distance to each other. So this is the actual diagram of it. It is a full circle. Every one of these planets is an equal amount of space apart, and they all orbit the star of Xaryxis. Okay, so then descriptions of each world. Verduran, a rocky misshapen world, once supports life, but its ecosystem was wiped out when it became the Astral Elves' first testing ground for their newly harvested astral seeds. Cracked and barren, this planet is now little more than a cinder. Another rocky world, Rivus escaped Verduran's fate because of its rich platinum deposits, which the Astral Elves mine. Although it appears desolate on the surface, Rivus bustles with activity below ground, where umber hulks, purple worms, and other burrowing creatures make their lair. Zerandar is a lush green planet that teems with life. The floor of the world grow to extraordinary size, thanks to the light of Xaryxis, and many of the planet's most formidable creatures are various kinds of intelligent plants. Most of Zerandar's elf population left long ago to be closer to their gods on the astral plane, but the planet still has a few settlements that cultivate and harvest the crystal leaf trees used in the construction of star maws. And then the Imperial Citadel, the administrative heart of the Xaryxian Empire, and described more fully in the Citadel overview section, which we're going to read next. So, considering the flexible amount of possibilities that a person can encounter while playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons, it could be a situation where your ship gets crushed by the Armada and it spirals down and it lands on one of these 4 planets, and then you would just kind of have to determine specifically what happens to the player characters if they were to land on one of those planets. And so that's why the star chart is provided. But assuming once again that everything goes without a hitch, then they're going to evade the Armada, they're going to evade the dragons, and then they're going to go directly to the Citadel, which we're going to be reading about next. The Imperial Citadel is the seat of the Imperial family, which includes Emperor Zavam and his heirs, Prince Adali and Prince Elith. It's a mile-wide floating platform of hewn stone, shaped in the form of a moth. The Citadel, which has its own air envelope and gravity plane, is home to approximately 10,000 people, most of them astral elves. The few non-elves are diplomatic envoys to the court, leaders, and skill crafters whose work is esteemed by the Emperor. The Imperial Guard, which provides security within the palace and throughout the Citadel, is composed of 150 Astral Elf warriors and 30 Astral Elf honor guards of various alignments, with half that number on duty at any given time. No structures are built on the underside of the Citadel, which is dotted with natural rocky protrusions. On the top side, stone walls 20 feet thick and 40 feet high control access to the gardens, the Imperial Palace, the Great Orrery, and the docks. 60-foot tall stone towers built into the wall are topped with ballista and mangonels. So, I think, we are battling Star Moth cruisers in the space in front of the Citadel. And it also just happens that the Citadel is shaped like a gigantic Star Moth. So, at least they are consistent with their motif. Okay, so this is a description of all the other areas: Common Docks, Garden, Great Orrery. All material I can't describe because it's probably something that, characters will have to explore in terms of gameplay. Okay, so that brings us to Chapter 11. OS Devon says pretty cool. Yes, incredibly cool. I'm very enthusiastic about potentially running a campaign on this. Determined to save the world, the characters travel to xaryxis space with a fleet of ships at their command, but nothing could have prepared them for the armada of enemy ships and the host of solar dragons guarding the magnificent citadel of the Xarxian Empire. Though the battle was lost, hope remains. When the characters approach the citadel, either as prisoners or on their own ship, read, as your ship draws closer to the citadel, you can make out thousands of people in the streets. The crowds surround the temple at the citadel's peak. By comparison, the two docking platforms at the tail end of the citadel seem quiet. Stepping onto a landing, you are met by 7 armored figures, their face hidden behind filigreed visors. The leader takes a step forward and says, "I am Commander Corleth. My orders are to deliver you to the Temple of Light to face the Emperor's justice." The commander then orders your captors to return their weapons to you. Princess Zadali sends her regards. So then you are led to the citadel without your weapons. Let me see. Then this is a map of the Temple of Light, which is the palace that you're going to be led to. And so 1 square of which 10 feet. There's a base level. And then there's a center core that actually shoots starlight out into space, which I assume is that aforementioned way that the elves have been exploiting the solar energy of their sun this whole time. As the characters enter the temple, read, pushing your way into the temple through the crowd of onlookers, you see an elf priest leaning over the figure of the late emperor, whose body floats in an azure pool with a brilliant beam of light penetrating from above. Flanking the priest are Prince Zeleth and Princess Zadali. The prince is arrayed in a regal splendor, his expression one of exultation, while Zadali stands stiffly regarding her brother with a look of utter loathing. Silence fills the temple as the priest raises his arms and the emperor's body, shrouded in light, rises into the beam and disappears. "The emperor has ascended," the priest announced. "His spirit is one with the light of xaryxis. As his firstborn heirs, Prince Zeleth and Prince Zadali are both in line to rule, but Princess Zadali stands accused of treason. Are there anyone who would defend her claim?" And so they have another description of Prince Zeleth and Princess Zadali, which I think we already went. That we already went through. There's a contingency in the event that Princess Zadali is not with you that I'm not going to read. Let's see. So this is where the significance of the ring comes in. Zadali, in desperation, demands a chance to prove her innocence in a trial by combat, a request by Zeleth mocks. Only someone who bears one of the Starlight Rings can challenge for the right to rule. Where is your ring, dear sister? And so she had already given you the Astral Ring in the previous chapter, so that gives the player characters the right in order to challenge Princess Zadali to duel. And so let's see. So then, the duel would probably come by, then followed by trial by combat. Zealous sneers, very well, sister, since you won't face me yourself. I too name a champion. Bring forth the Zodar. The crowd gives out a collective gasp as the guards part ranks to make way for a creature clad head to toe in a suit of obsidian armor. As it floats towards you, you realize the armor is the creature. The priest turns to face you. The Zodar has served the imperial family since the dawn of the empire. Its knowledge is vast, and its will is absolute. To the death. So Zodar, a creature out of Buddha's Astral Menagerie. I believe it's supposed to be a spectral type of golem, but I would have to look that up again. And so, once again, not talking about the outcome. There are two outcomes here. One where Emperor Zelith will win, and another where Emperor Zidali would win. Let's see. Zelith glowers at you, pathetic fools, hurling yourself into the void without the slightest inkling of who or what is out there. If you knew anything about the true nature of wild space, anything at all, you would have hidden in terror. Pity I can't destroy your world more than once. If the characters are triumphant, read, the priest's voice rings through the temple. The Zodar is defeated. All hail Emperor Zidali. Zelith lets out a strangled cry as his sister steps towards you, a wide smile on your face. My ring, if you please. As Emperor, I just reward my champions for the triumph. Abruptly, Zidali's smile turns to a sneer. Guards, seize them. So, that's the end of Chapter 11. And Chapter 12, the Xaryxis Empire bombarded the characters' world with astral seeds which sprouted into crystal vines. They began harvesting the planet's energy. Determined to save their world, the characters fought their way into an imperial citadel orbiting Xaryxis, where the next emperor of the Xaryxian Empire was declared. So, I think I'm probably just going to need to skip the rest of this simply because, I don't want to spoil any of the potential aftermath. So, knowing how the duel ends is just kind of a very significant turning point. And from that point forward, you make a determination about what would happen to your home world as a result of who is ruling afterwards. But at any rate, we very fortunately finished just on time. That was the end of Light of Xaryxis. And it's getting good, yeah. And so this is the end of Light of Xaryxis, as usual, and nothing that's in a D&D storybook is set in stone. You can add your own embellishments. You can create an entirely different story just using the parameters of what's in the storybook. The world is your oyster. You can do absolutely anything with the material that's presented here. But, so this pretty much concludes our broadcast day. I'm trying to decide what I'm going to read for next week. I have a locally produced book that I actually managed to purchase when I went to Denver, which was the Denver, Colorado FurryCon, and I want to read that. I want to inform the authors that I'm going to read it, and I'm going to leave a review, so, they might be able to benefit from that. But I also want to start reading, what's the name of that book? I want to start reading Eberron. Eberron, of course, is a book that has brought Warforged into Dungeons & Dragons 5e, but it also describes an entire universe full of war-torn, quasi-future environments that I think might be interesting, I know that a great majority of people probably picked up Eberron for the purpose of running Warforged in 5e, but there's a lot more to the book, including numerous other potential player characters, and so I want to read that out. So it's very likely that Eberron is going to be my very next stream, and so I might devote the entirety of the stream to trying to get to the front and the back of the book. But following that, there's a lot of other, interesting things that I want to do with this show's format, including, reading some local books and, trying to put the feelers out for material that might fall slightly outside of the Red Dragon logo, if you know what I'm saying. So, yeah, that's good. One more thing that I wanted to announce is that we are getting very close to having our very first actual play game on this stream. So right now what we're doing is we're planning a recording session for October the 16th, which is right smack dab in the middle of next month. And so I'm just hoping that after that, we're going to go just 1 week, and then we're going to be able to publish the pre-recorded actual play the following week. So that's my timeline at the moment. Is that we're probably going to do the bulk of the gameplay on the 16th, and then we're going to follow it up on the following Saturday and that's when we're going to do our first broadcast of it. So once again, I think I've already made mention of this before, but this show is actually going to be pre-recorded. And it's a shame because, I don't have the opportunity in order to live stream this. I know that most people who are looking for content on Twitch want things to be live streamed. But I do promise that when this show does premiere, I want to be in the chat room as the pre-recording is going. So once this premieres, I will be there in the same amount of time that the show is going to be broadcast, and I am going to be chatting with you inside of the chat box. And so, I'll talk about behind the scenes stuff. I'll answer anybody's questions. But I do want to interact with chat the day that it premieres. But other than that, it is going to be a pre-recorded show. It's just going to air here first on a certain date. One more thing that I want to mention is that I want to give you the title of the show. The title of the show is One Shots from the Meowing Portal. And so this kind of gives away a little bit of how the format is going to go. The fact is that this is going to be a stream that's going to be a series of one-shots. They're going to be set in the multiverse environment of Dungeons & Dragons. Where effectively any potential environment from the books is up for grabs, and effectively, we're going to be beginning our campaign right here where I'm standing in the middle of the Library of Denier, and I will be the controller of a multiverse portal, the Meowing Portal, which I'm going to use to send adventurers out into individual scenarios where they will have to correct the flow of space and time by performing specific adventures within different realms inside of the portal. And that's going to be the format. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be one-shots from the Meowing Portal. It's going to be coming in, what I hope is going to be the third week of October right here on twitch.tv/BrainingTheRPGCat. Devin says that's a really cool format. Oh, I think so too. People, when it comes to creating actual plays, some people do want things like continuity. People do want things like campaign planning, and there will be elements of that in this stream. But just in order to keep things, in a bit more synergistic, I am going to limit myself to making things a little bit more episodic, one major adventure every single time that we gather to play. And so I can't wait to talk to other things about this. I'm more than likely going to drop a lot of this information on Twitter in the weeks leading up to it. But we've put together a really swell cast. They've put together some really great characters, and I'm working on the storyline details and also the stream imagery and video production in the background, all leading up to this date. So I'm really excited about it. You can probably hear it in my voice, but it's going to be a great show, and I hope I'm going to be able to, everything goes off without a hitch, I'll be able to bring it to you soon. But anyways, thank you everybody once again for tuning in to tonight's stream. Once again, our stream is brought to you by greatmedia.games for inexpensive TCG single cards. Visit us at greatmedia.games and use the code 1050 at checkout for 10% off your online purchase. Sonar says, thanks for streaming, Brainy. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. It's due to the fact that you guys regularly tune into this stream that I continue to do it. And I hope you guys have all had a good time. Alrighty, so now we're going to go on and we are going to, we're going to do a raid. So please stay tuned for another raid. Let's see, who would I like to visit? They might be interesting. Let's see, who else is here? They're not usually on at this time. See. Okay, so we're going to go over to T. Rufel. T. Rufel is another cat streamer, and she is in the middle of playing her very first game of Pokemon Unite, so that should be interesting to watch. Let's start with a shout-out. Alright.
Bruh. I try. You're all terrible people. See, this model doesn't have like a sleep mode when it loses tracking like my Meow model does.
You could have heard us. Oh shit.
Yes, I did hear you. I've got a wireless headset, remember? Like, even when I go outside to walk Prim, I can hear you. I know what you're doing.
Don't make me feel like...
Should I still go back and put back the look at it?
Good day. Good day to you too, Sonar. Alright, so we're going to head over to T. Rufo's channel. Thank you everybody for tuning in. I will be back tomorrow with a playthrough of Hades on Nintendo Switch. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Good night everybody. And thank you very much for watching.